I primarily use Instagram as a way to generate qualified leads for my coaching program. My coaching program prices range anywhere between $4,000 and $70,000 to work with me. That's a wide range, but just know that I'm on the more higher ticket end. And understanding that layer of context is going to be really crucial in regards to why my strategy is what it is, why I pay attention to the metrics that I pay attention to. So if you are an individual selling education or coaching to a more affluent buyer, you're solving a more sophisticated, elevated problem that you're charging premium for, this Instagram content strategy might be perfect for you. So I analyzed my data over the last 15 months of using Instagram because I have been doing a lot of testing different formats, testing different editing styles, testing different posting cadence and the frequency of cadence, testing different agencies, different contractors. I've been testing a lot over the past 15 months. And I wanted to really get a comprehensive understanding of what is working, what has been working, and what I'm going to continue doing moving forward with my Instagram content strategy. First thing I want to break down, because I think this is a really important aspect for you to understand, is that there's 3 different objectives that you're trying to accomplish with your content on Instagram specifically. Attracting new leads, basically making sure that you are getting your content in front of people who do not currently follow you. Nurturing your existing leads, meaning that these people already follow you, they already know who you are, and now you're trying to continue to influence their decision-making in the buying process. Conversion. This is when you're trying to get your existing audience to take a more concrete action. This is how I like to distinguish that. There are the public engagers, individuals who follow, like, and publicly comment. And then there are those private action takers. Those are the individuals that will click the link in your bio, visit your profile, send you a direct message, and have private dialogue or take private action that isn't really apparent based off of your public metrics. Understanding those 3 different outcomes, that is going to influence what content you roll out for what. High level, what I've noticed that works best for attraction type of content, me getting in front of people who do not currently follow me and probably who do not know who I am, is Reels. I understand there's a love-hate relationship with Reels on the internet. And if you want me to go more in depth on the type of Reels that I specifically create, leave a comment below. When you think about Reels, just think about short form content, something that is less than 60 seconds long. The goal of your Reels is to get you reach. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to start going out here, learning how to do all the TikTok dance moves and overwhelming yourself about using the correct trending audio. Again, this strategy is for a more affluent buyer who is interested in solving a more sophisticated problem. They do not care about trends. And quite honestly, if you're out here looking like a little teeny bopper Gen Z, pop locking and dropping it with your dance moves, think about how that's going to influence their perception of you. Of course, this really depends on the type of offer that you're selling and the type of audience that you're selling to. But what I've noticed for myself and for the clients that I coach, their buyers really don't care about how fast they are staying on top of trends. Later on in this video, I'm going to be showing you the specific types of Reels that perform well for me. When it comes to nurture content, the best formats have been Instagram stories and carousels. I know Instagram has been going through an identity crisis. They're like, go all in on Reels. And then they're like, oh, hold on, maybe we went a little bit too far. When it comes to nurturing, again, this more affluent buyer, this more sophisticated individual trying to sell a more premium offer, they also like to read. These individuals are readers, and having carousels that do some great storytelling or really break down a concept, it allows them to have a deeper level of buy-in and allows you to convey and introduce an entire concept that's really difficult to do in a short form reel. The other part is Instagram stories. If you go into your insights, you can actually see who are the main viewers of your Instagram stories. Are they new followers or are they existing followers? For me, the vast majority, like over 90% of people who watch my Instagram stories are people who already follow me. You want to keep that in mind of when you're creating content, who is the consumer? Is it somebody who doesn't know who you are, or is it somebody who's been hanging around for a while? The conversion content formats that have worked best is also carousels and live stream video. I know that you're probably watching this like, hold on, okay? You're telling me that not only do I need to be on camera, but I need to be doing live videos. 100%. Live stream videos has been the number one thing that has allowed me to increase my conversion rates and build a deeper level of trust with the type of qualified buyer that I'm trying to enroll into my program, hands down. Now that you have a good understanding of the content formats that work well based off the outcome that you're trying to achieve, that's the high-level conceptual part of the strategy. But now I want to start diving deeper into the nuances of each of these different content formats and showing you examples of what has worked, what hasn't worked, and what I think you need to keep top of mind. If you're still watching at this point, using Instagram as a way to generate leads for your offers is probably a priority for you. And I'm happy that you're here because I'm going to be giving you the tea, okay? So if you're still watching right now, in the comments, just write down the word tea. And that lets me know that you made it this far in the video, okay? It's our little secret between each other. So let's get into it. So let's start with that attraction content. Again, that content that we want to get in front of new people, non-existing followers, with the understanding that those viewers are going to be people who don't know who you are. So we're thinking about that attraction content. Again, what I've noticed in my own strategy that works best for getting me in front of new followers, people who do not already know who I am, is using Reels. So let's look at my data and see what has been working for Reels and what hasn't. The things that I noticed about my Reels that were working were the ones that I was just sitting in my car answering a question that somebody on a live stream or somebody in my comments had asked me earlier that week. The talking head video where I am camera in front of face, just talking direct into the camera. Using trending news. This is something new that I've been testing so far this year, where I have the green screen behind me and there's something going on with like the Super Bowl and Rihanna, or with Telfar using live pricing in their strategy. And I'm using current events to offer my perspective and apply how that strategy can be relevant to my audience. Using B-roll and just having a Twitter quote laying on top of it with some inspirational audio in the background, or me having video where I'm just showing what's possible. For example, I purchased a second property and that reel had better performance than pretty much everything else I had posted during that quarter. The biggest thing with my reels that were working were half of the reels that were performing the best were repurposed from my live stream videos. I didn't even have to hire a video production team or set out other dedicated time to create content. Instead, I found really powerful perspectives that I was sharing during my long form videos, and I repurposed those into short form reels. This is another main reason why I'm such an advocate for live stream video. More of that longer form content, because it can be repurposed and leveraged in a multitude of ways if you get the messaging right. So those are the things that were working with my reels. Let's talk about what didn't work and what has not been working. Not having good hooks. I've never really been intentional or mindful of having a really strong hook at the beginning of a frame. But over the past 3 months, I started testing creating reels that were more scripted. And the videos that did not have good hooks, if there wasn't something captivating in the first second or two, those videos tanked. Which I think we hear a lot of people talk about, the importance of that very first frame, the very first second, specifically with reels. They're not lying. It's very true. The attention span of the average consumer, again, who does not know who you are, is not going to give you the grace to listen for 15 seconds to figure out what point you're trying to make and how it's relevant to them. I also noticed that when I used more of a cropped video editing style, those did not perform well either. What worked better is having video full frame versus it being cropped into like a horizontal type of graphic where it was overly branded. Those didn't perform well for me. The last thing that didn't work with reels was just lacking context, or there not being really a clear story that is trying to be told. Again, this is difficult to do in a short form video, but when you're repurposing long form content, you have to be really mindful of grabbing clips and editing and stitching together segments of what you're talking about to make sure that that standalone reel is comprehensive and cohesive. When it comes to reels, what you need to keep in mind is if you have long form live stream videos, those work really well to strategically repurpose into short form content if the messaging within that long form live stream video was effective. You can't just start clipping stuff. I would not recommend just clipping down your long form video just so you have reels to publish. Make sure that the messaging that you are repurposing is effective, is coherent, and conveys a full concept that is super relevant to your audience. The second thing to remember about reels is that about half of the people who watch those reels have no idea who you are. So be mindful of that when you are picking concepts and messaging to incorporate into that reel. Also, especially if you're repurposing your long form video, be mindful of the segments that you're choosing to pull out to repurpose And ask yourself, is this concept, is this topic more top of funnel, more in that unaware phase of the consumer that can spark some interest that gets them to visit your profile and then binge more if it's aligned? The metrics that I would measure for performance on your reels is reach and impressions. Again, the job of your reels is to get you in front of a new audience. So those two metrics can help give you insight on whether or not your reels are doing an effective job of achieving that goal. Something that I'm still testing out and is still to be determined about reels is if a more higher quality production is necessary for performance. Over the past 3 months, I've been testing out a variation of super highly produced reels. Me, full face, beat, makeup, hair, outfit, the nines. And some of those did perform really well if the messaging was spot on. But I'm going to be determining if it only was effective with getting me in front of new followers, or if it was actually effective in converting the type of buyer and the type of qualified buyer that I need for my program. To be determined. Let's get into the next part of the Instagram content strategy, specifically around that nurture piece. And when I think about that nurture content, I'm going to focus first on my news feed content, because that's primarily what people who already follow me are going to be consuming. Let's talk about the newsfeed content, in particular, your carousels. What's been working with my carousels? What you want to keep in mind when you are creating carousels is that you have the opportunity to go deeper on a particular aspect or angle of positioning with your messaging, because the vast majority of the people consuming this content are people who already follow you. These are the things that have been working with carousels to improve my performance. One is having data, numbers, dollar signs, money in the very first slide of the frame. I do teach lead generation. I do teach sales. I talk a lot about money. People typically follow me because they want to learn how to make more of it. I'm also an engineer by trade, and a lot of the people who follow me know that. They know that I'm very data-driven, and they know that Jerisha is about securing the bag. So I'm not surprised that the majority of my carousels that have performed the best over the last 15 months were the ones that talked about money or that were very data-driven in the storytelling. The second thing that worked well for my carousels were more listicles, teaching a particular concept, but more importantly, breaking down the step-by-step. Now, this was not the traditional how-to type of content that you can Google, that you typically will find when you are searching for a particular thing. But more so, these were listicles and step-by-step on not teaching people what to do, but teaching them how to think, breaking down a decision-making framework, or introducing how they need to logically think through the thought process to accomplish whatever it is that I'm introducing in that post. Again, my audience likes a good structure. They appreciate a good format. So a listicle aligns with how they naturally already like to consume information. And when I make the messaging within that post really relevant to something that is pertaining to them raising their rates or transitioning into group program delivery, or how to structure their group delivery to ensure that when they transition out of private one-on-one, they don't damage their client experience. When I can break that down into step-by-step format, they eat it up. The third type of carousel that has performed really well is more of that incorporating storytelling to teach or introduce a particular lesson that I want them to adopt. Very similar to the listicle, but instead of it being so numerically structured, the storytelling structure also worked really well for my content. The most important thing that I noticed with my carousels is that the more niche and the more specific the particular topic was, the better it performed. Also, I noticed that when I designed my carousel or structured my carousel, I crafted each slide of the carousel to be able to stand on its own. That really did help me with increasing my shares on my carousels. And you care about shares on carousels because that's also getting you in front of a new audience. Anytime that somebody who's reading your carousel and is going through and decides to share your post to their Instagram stories, one, there's a transference of trust, because it didn't just pop up on somebody's discovery feed. Whoever they follow now is going to see your content, and that transference of trust will increase the number of people bringing them back to your platform. Also, if people who already follow you are sharing your content, it's likely that whoever follows them might also be an aligned individual for what it is that you have to offer and what you're selling. So when it comes to newsfeed content, let's talk about what has not been working. Single posts for me have tanked. Now, one thing I do want to put in for context and caveat here, that pretty much my Instagram newsfeed is either made up of video or tweets. I will write tweets on Twitter, take a screenshot, and then that will be my post on Instagram. I noticed that a lot of my single tweet posts on Instagram really didn't perform that well, unless it was like really punchy or more comical or more entertaining and funny. I also noticed that the more generic or broad a concept was in written format, the worse that it performs. I think that is something that we're going to see happening more and more in the future, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence and that handy dandy tool, ChatGPT. The biggest thing is that if you can't write better than ChatGPT, default to video. And if you are going to be writing, you need to introduce a perspective that ChatGPT cannot offer. This is why your experience, your perspective, and your opinion is so important when you are writing text-based content on your newsfeed on Instagram. The other thing that wasn't working were posts that just were lacking context. They were incomplete thoughts. Looking back on them now, I'm like, that was really dumb. Why did I post that? But in the moment, I was like, this is cute. This is a good idea or a good concept taint. So the biggest things to remember when it comes to newsfeed posts, and especially carousels, the more specialized, the more specific, and the more niche the particular concept is that you're addressing, the higher it's going to perform. And the more that you can structure your carousel so that each slide of your carousel can kind of stand on its own, it's a concept on its own, the better your carousel is going to perform in totality, but the more shares you're going to get from that carousel as well. So it's kind of a double whammy. So when evaluating metrics for your newsfeed posts, again, we have to keep in mind that these posts are going to be for your existing audience, people who already follow you. So the metrics we care about to evaluate performance of your carousels and your newsfeed posts are shares, saves, and profile visits. Again, when you're selling a more premium offer for a more affluent buyer, we care about that private action that is being taken and those silent decisions that they are making. It's really, really funny and odd. I polled my current clients, over 100 of them, and I asked them, are they more public engagers, private action takers, or silent decision makers when they are making a buying decision before they enrolled in my program? And the results were incredible. Over 70% of my students who paid 5 figures to work with me were private or silent action takers or decision makers. They were not public engagers. So they were lurking on my profile, privately watching my videos, silently reading my carousels. They were not, half of them weren't even following me. They were liking my posts and they were not publicly commenting. And that's why when we're looking at the data to evaluate performance, when you're selling a more premium price offer and you're dealing with a more affluent buyer, you have to pay attention to different metrics. Because if I only cared about likes and follows, I'd be missing the mark on what is actually working to nurture and influence my qualified lead to making a buying decision for my type of offer. So keep that in mind for yourself too. Now that we've talked about attraction content, nurture content, let's talk about the thing that everybody cares about, that conversion content, honey, okay? This is where you need to be using live stream in your Instagram content strategy. It's not to say that you're not going to make any money or that you're not going to see progress, but the data has not lied. The live stream videos is one of the fastest ways and the most efficient ways for you to build trust, for you to establish yourself as an authority, and to really build that deeper connection with your consumer. So the live stream cadence that's worked best for me depends on if I'm launching an offer or if I am just building my wait list. When I'm building my wait list, doing 1 live per week is a really good cadence to maintain. It's even better if you can set a same day, same time so that people can start to predict and start to rearrange their calendars to make sure that they never miss you. If your lifestyle ain't set up where you can go live on the same day at the same time every single week, don't stress. Just announce your live streams a day in advance to let your audience know that you're going live. You'll notice a 30 to 50% increase in live viewers when you actually let them know in advance. Crazy, right? If I am launching and actively enrolling people into my program, I use my methodology called the lean launch method. This is the same method that I've been using since 2017, and it's the same method that I teach my clients inside of my coaching programs to use. But basically, the lean launch is 9 live videos over a 3-week period when you're in the middle of a launch or when you're preparing for a launch. That's the cadence of when and how often I do my live streams. So what works, again, with live streams is one, announcing my live stream in advance, letting people know at least 24 hours in advance that I'm going to be going live. Sometimes I'll even go into my Instagram stories and kind of let my audience pick the topic. What I mean by that is I will do a poll where I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to be going live tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's 2 topics that I'm thinking of having the live stream about. Which topic would you prefer? And I'll do a poll of listing each of those topics, just A or B. And then I'll pick whichever one is the most popular. So I'll already map out my messaging, or that's a really great way to get your audience kind of involved. And it builds anticipation because they're like, oh, I definitely want to hear about this topic. I'm definitely going to show up tomorrow when they go live. So that's really, really key. The second thing that's important to do with your live streams is actually save the live stream to your newsfeed. So over the past 3 or 6 months, with Instagram has been changing a lot with their algorithm and the placement of content on their platform. If I were you right now at today's day and age, I would post my live stream onto my newsfeed because it's going to create the opportunity for audience members to binge my content. And having that Netflix effect, creating a way for your consumers to actually binge your content, is what really aids in increasing your conversion rates. The third thing is that the day after you go live, recap your live stream. Reshare that live stream to your Instagram stories. Do 3 or 5 frames in your Instagram stories, recapping what you talked about and why somebody should go watch the replay. The reason why that is so important is because 90% of your video views are going to be from people who watch the replay, not who show up live. So if you've been kind of holding out or delaying doing live stream because you're like, nobody's going to be there when I show up. First of all, I got to ask you, did you tell them that you were going to go live and give them advance notice? But secondarily, this is where you need to let go of your ego. Majority of the people who watch are not going to be watching live. That's just the cadence of how people consume media content today anyway. Think about when you are watching a new show on Netflix or on HBO. Are you always there the moment that the episode drops? Or do you choose to watch it when it makes sense for your schedule? You binge later. You don't show up live majority of the time. That's how your audience is going to behave too. So the last thing with live streams is, in the comments, let me know, are you already using live stream video in your marketing strategy? If not, are you going to start? The thing to keep top of mind is do the thing what most people are not willing to do. Look at your competitors or your niche neighbors, as people like to call it. When you do the thing that nobody else is willing to do, it's a surefire way to make yourself stand out. Look at your niche neighbors or potential competition. And if they're not using live video in their Instagram marketing strategy, and if you start, best believe your audience is going to notice. The other really nice benefit of live stream video being a part of your Instagram marketing strategy is, one, it has been the most effective way for me to convert my existing audience into paid clients for my premium 4- and 5-figure priced offers. But the other really cool thing that live video has been able to afford me in my business is getting me brand partnerships and paid speaking engagements. I don't have a media kit. I don't have a speaker reel. Pretty much every opportunity I have gotten being featured in Business Insider, Essence, Forbes, being on stages like Summit 21 of Blavity, or having brand partnerships with major companies like Thinkific and Acuity Scheduling. Those opportunities came because of my live videos. My content served as my resume. And when those brand partners or event hosts were looking for somebody, I popped up, boo, okay? So live video really does allow you to position yourself as an authority, especially when you have something of quality and of deep value to say. All right, so that was the high-level overview of my Instagram marketing strategy. You might be thinking, how much money is she spending on paid ads every month? Nothing, zero, zilch, nada. The strategy that I just explained to you is the exact strategy that I use that has made me millions of dollars through organic content creation. At the time of this recording, I did not spend any money on paid ads, and I have not spent any money on paid ads since 2018, 2019. This is the beginning of my marketing strategy. Phase 2 of my marketing strategy, once you have really had mastery of this platform, I had operational efficiency around the cadence of when I created content, how I created content, and had a frequent publishing cadence. That's when I upgraded to level 2. Level 2 is when I started taking what was best performing on Instagram and strategically repurposing that onto other platforms. For example, I take my long form live stream videos, those get downloaded, the audio gets stripped, and those turn into podcast episodes that come out on a weekly basis. The Jerisha Said podcast. If you're not already listening and subscribed, go do that. I take my long form videos and turn those into podcast episodes. That way I'm not having to spend twice as much time creating content. My goal, though, is that I have to be really, really intentional and ensure that the messaging that I'm putting in my live video is effective, does a good job of attracting qualified leads, and the audio quality is sufficient so that when I do repurpose it, it can also be turned into audio format. The other thing that I'm doing at this stage of my business is also taking my long form live stream videos and uploading those to YouTube. So you'll see now on my YouTube channel that every single week, all those podcast episodes, which were former live stream videos, are now also YouTube videos as well. And that's something I'm testing this year to see how that goes. The reason why I'm choosing to introduce YouTube into my more advanced form of content strategy and how I'm leveraging Instagram to do that is because I'm at a point in my business where I can pretty much outsource all of the content distribution. This would have been nearly impossible for me to do earlier on in my business because it takes a lot of work to distribute, repurpose with intentionality on multiple platforms. If you want me to go more in depth on my content repurposing strategy and more of my Instagram marketing strategy 2.0, just leave a comment below and let me know. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind is going back to what I said at the very beginning of the video. Context is important. The reason why my Instagram marketing strategy works is because this strategy is directly aligned with the type of buyer that I am trying to attract for the specific type of offer that I am selling. If you're trying to attract more premium priced buyers, you have to stop treating your marketing strategy like a content creator. You're not an influencer. And you need to start treating your content strategy like a marketer would. See yourself as a marketer versus an influencer, and it'll change the entire dynamic of how you create content and what metrics you pay attention to evaluate performance. If you like the video you just watched, click this one. You might like it even more. Go ahead, check it out.